All right. Good evening, everybody out there in House District 66. Um, everybody, I'm hoping people tune in all across the state. As y'all know, I had my second State of the District yesterday evening. This year it was hosted in the big, magnificent city of Terry, Mississippi. So definitely want to thank the city of Terry and everybody down there for allowing us to come and share the updates from the 2025 session. Unfortunately, we did live stream yesterday. However, the feed cut about halfway through due to internet connectivity problems. And it was ironic that that happened because one thing that we're going through in the city of Terry right now, well, all over District 66, is we're talking a lot about broadband expansion, which we're going to be discussing later on this evening. But that shows why broadband expansion is so important because this event was held at the Terry Community Center. And at a community center, you want to bring people in, and people need reliable internet when they're coming in for presentations, parties, whatever it is. And so this just really kind of shed more light on as to why we have to really focus strongly on broadband expansion. I'm not going to keep y'all long. I should be able to go through this pretty quickly. If you're in here, say hello in the comments, please. If you have a question about anything that I'm going over, please drop it down in the comments. This is very informal, and I'll see your question, and I'll be more than happy to answer it to the best of my ability. So let me get my screen up here. Let's see here. All right, there we go. Also, so this is a booklet that I compose. I compose a book each year. This one was a little bit fancier. I added a little color to it. I added I did upgrades because my one last year was a bit boring, but I tried to kind of improve on it. But we're going to be going over the major legislation. So these are bills that I think are really pertinent and really going to be beneficial in our district. There are many more, like I'm going to show you right here. So if we look, we're looking at there were 259 bills that actually became law. We're not going to be talking about all 259 of them. We're going to be talking about, I'm trying to go back here. We're going to be talking about the ones that are just important to, I want to say, our district, and then some that are important to the state. Like there's one bill. Hey there, Miss Donna Veach. Miss Veach, I'm so sorry that the live stream didn't work for you yesterday. Really good. And I said, I'm going to do this again just for you because I know you were very adamant about wanting to know what was going on. So everybody, y'all can thank Miss Donna Veach from Terry, Mississippi for me redoing this and doing it so that everybody can understand, because it's my job as your representative to make sure I put the information out there for you. And the fact that I wasn't able to put all of it out on live feed yesterday, guess what? I got to bite the bullet and do it again because I want to hold up to what I said I was going to do. That was one of my campaign promises, is to come back to y'all every single year and tell y'all the laws that were passed and the good, the bad, and the ugly. As I said, these are booklets that I compose, and if you want one of them, please feel free to reach out to me. I can get one to you. I'm going to be getting copies of these books to all of my HOA presidents to distribute. The city of Terry, or town of Terry rather, has some at City Hall, so you can go by City Hall. This is the hard copy of the book, but you can go by City Hall and get it. Like I said, if you come in, I can send you a digital copy or whatever it is that you need. And so first page, it talks about what my key legislative priorities are: economic growth, education reform, healthcare access, broadband expansion, affordable housing, criminal justice reform, transparency, which is one I'm very, very big on, as y'all know already, and of course, public safety. It's important that I keep my priorities in front of me because periodically, maybe once a month, I always look back at my priorities. I look back at my campaign promises just to make sure that my activities in the state legislature are in line with what my priorities are. And I'm happy to say, not bragging, but I'm happy to say that a lot of these we have made positive strides towards. Education reform. I talked about fully funding education, which has been done 2 years in a row. Both years I've been there. Now, that's not all because of me. I have 121 other colleagues and 52 colleagues in the Senate that have to help get these things done. But we're going to move on. And so, like I said, we're just going through a summary. And so I want y'all to see something here. So these are the years. This is 2005, 25, sorry, 24, 23, 22. And so in this year alone in the House, we introduced 2,012 bills. In the Senate, they introduced 1,290 bills. Now, I just told you the amount of bills that became law were actually 259. So when you talk about, we're talking about 3,200 and actually about 2,400 bills. So you think about it, we've introduced 24 of these, 2,400, and 259 of them actually became laws. And you can look back at previous years and see what the trajectory looks like in other years. And when I tell you, you're looking now, we're on fire. These past 2 years, we have been producing some good legislation. Let's look at what we had. See, last session, we got 492 bills passed into law. So that lets you know we are working very, very hard. Hey there, Mr. Hobson, how you doing? Thank you so much for tuning in. And so we're going to keep on pushing. Like I said, this talks about the bills because we had, now, if you look at these are bills that actually became law without the governor's signature. So if the governor does not sign a bill, it automatically becomes law. So the governor has three choices. He can either veto it, which will kill it. He can sign it, which will make it law, or he can just say, I'm not going to sign it. And if he does not sign it, it still becomes law. So there were 5 this year. And these were all House bills. There were 16 last year in the House and 5 in the Senate. Partial vetoes do not count because an appropriation bill, ways and any type of revenue bill, the governor can partially veto items on them. And I'm going to tell y'all a little bit about that when we get a little step further. All right, so now if y'all got any questions, once again, I'm going to be moving kind of fast, but if you got any questions, please drop them. I'll be more than happy to spend some time. However much time it is that you need, I'll be more than happy to spend that time going over it with you. So we are going to start at the top, which is House Bill 289. And the committee that this is in is appointment and election. So these bills are all election bills. What this bill does is it's going to change the shape up of our election commissioners here in Mississippi. So currently, election commissioners, we have 5. Each county has 5 election commissioners. What happens is they all run at the same time. The problem with that being is we want to make sure that we're not having a complete overturn of the board, meaning we have 5 new election commissioners come in. Nobody's going to know what to do. And so what we're doing is we're staggering the terms. So this talks about what we're going to do is districts 2 and it's going to be district 2 and 4. So the election commissioners for district 2 and 4 that were elected in 2027 shall be elected for a 3-year term. So in 2027, they're going to get 3 years. 2 and 4 is going to get 4 years. Now, after that, they will get a full 4 years. However, we had to do it like that so that we can make the proper adjustment. And so after the 2027 cycle, so the cycle after that, it'll be back to normal, but the terms will be staggered. Because when we talk about elections, we have to make sure, and I'm gonna tell you, election commissioners are the most important people on the ballot. And when you talk about that, I mean, they control candidates to qualify, they control absentee affidavit ballots. So we have to make sure, making sure that the polls have the proper equipment, proper ballots. And so we're doing this because we don't want a complete overhaul. Moving on down, House Bill 291. All this bill does is it changes the general election to mirror the primaries. So in the primary election in Mississippi, you have to have 50% plus 1 in order to win the nomination. When you go to a general, it doesn't matter if it's 100 candidates on the ballot. The person with the most votes gets the actual position. So what we're doing now is we're saying that if there are 3 or more people in the general election, that it has to be 50% plus 1, just like the primary election. Because what we were seeing is Democrats and Republicans go through primary races, go through primary runoffs, having to spend money, having to campaign harder to get that nomination. and going to the general, and you have an independent candidate, or you can have a lot of independents come in there. You can have 10 people on the ballot, and somebody can win if they have 20% of the vote, as long as they have the most votes. So we wanted to make sure that is that every single person, no matter party affiliation or running an independent, Green Party, Tea Party, Yellow Party, Blue Party, Log Cabin, whatever party, we want to make sure that at the end that the level field is that the playing field is level, because it's not fair to have people on the campaign trail all for 6-7 months, and then you got an independent candidate come in and swoop right in and win the election. So I'm a fan of that one. Senate Bill 2657. If I got any election commissioners listening, this will affect you. What this does is it allows the Board of Supervisors to pay you an additional $35 on election day. So for all of my election commission, make sure y'all are getting y'all $35 for these elections. It's a lot of work that goes into elections. All right, so we're going to move on over to the Business and Commerce Committee. There's one bill I thought was important. It's House Bill 999. This bill basically defines what a modular home is. And so when we talk about that, we're talking about the Uniform Standards Codes for Factory Built Homes law. And so what we had happen is several years ago, mobile homes are very popular here in Mississippi. And so we had people that were buying mobile homes, and then we started having these modular homes that come in and qualify the same way as a mobile home. But what we have happening now is that we put some registration in. Okay, we have some legislation put in place. I'm sorry, y'all. We had some legislation put in place back then to kind of regulate what category the modular homes fell under. Well, now we have another caveat, which are tiny homes. And so when we talk about tiny homes, they can consist of someone going and buying a storage unit and converting it into a home. So what this does is this defines what qualifications these tiny homes have to meet. And it's not to stop someone or impede someone from getting a home. It's to make sure that they're living in a safe home. We'll have to think about storm ratings when storms come through here. Also, fire ratings. If they're not properly insulated with the right materials, or they have highly flammable materials, their family isn't safe in case of a fire. And so we want to make sure that our citizens are safe. Safety is the most important thing for us. How you doing over there, Miss Erica Jones down from Terry? Erica, thank you so much for coming out yesterday evening. Also, Mr. Hobson, thank you for coming out. Now, so in our book, we got notes. You get a hard copy. You can take notes if you want to. Things. All right, so we're going to move on to the Corrections Committee. Now, there were two bills that came through corrections this session I thought were very important. Both of these are very important bills. Senate Bill 2242 and Senate Bill 2357. Ultimately, they do the same thing. So let me just go over both of them. What it does is these are programs for people that are incarcerated, which will allow them. Now, 2242 allows them to go and work for the Mississippi Department of Transportation. While working for MDOT, they will be earning a fair wage. Now, historically, we had inmates that go and work and they'll make $2, $3 an hour or $5, $10 a day. But in this legislation, it's written that they cannot pay our incarcerated people less than what they're paying their other employees. Now, what happens with this money is 50% of this money goes into a savings account so that when they're released, they'll have savings to start a new life. We have a percentage of this money, I want to say 15%, I think, of this money that goes towards administrative costs. And the administrative costs would be the money for MDOC to transfer our inmates over to the work sites that they're going to be working at. And then we have another 25%. That 25% is going to go towards fines. Like if a person has child support, the fines and things they have to pay, that 25% would be dedicated to that. Now, what I really like about this program is when we talk about incarceration, it's called the Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation. We got to make sure that we are rehabilitating and not only correcting. And so when we correct a person, you lock them, you're putting the person in jail. But when we talk about rehabilitation, that means you're reforming a person so that once they get out of the system, they can go and live a new life, a better life for themselves and their families. Because when we talk about recidivism, we look at people that go out and they go back to doing the things that they did that got them locked up because there are not any opportunities. You look at a person that gets out of prison, you have a criminal background, you can't, it's hard to get a job. So it's hard, it's really hard on them. And so what we're doing is with this legislation, that's going to help them. Now, Senate Bill 2357, the other one talks about MDOT. 2357, this is a pilot program with 100 people that are going to be in the program up at the Delta Correctional Facility. And we have a partnership with Milwaukee Tools. And like I said, they'll go and get trained. And after they're released, guess what? They have job security because these companies have agreed to allow them to keep their jobs once they're out. And so I think this is going to be a really great move, for our state, because I've been very vocal about our people are incarcerated coming out and not having anything to go home to. And when you think about it, if you come out and you have nothing to go home to, you don't have a skill, you cannot get a job. I mean, what are you going to do? Going to revert to doing, if it was selling drugs, to selling drugs again, because it's all about you're trying to be able to survive. And when you keep having doors closed in your face, that's what ends up. So I'm very happy about both of these programs. We're going to move on down to education. So House Bill 809, this deals with military families. So when military families, for our military brats, if we got any military brats, you understand how your family can be up and relocated in a matter of weeks. So what this says is basically it gives our military families the option to send their children to any school that they want to go to, public school that they want to go to within any district, without having to meet the residency requirement and showing lease agreements and all of that. So it makes it easier on our military families. Now, I do want to stress that you have to be active duty when this happens. And so you can't be in active duty and, get this, or veteran and get it. It's only for our active duty military personnel. All right, here goes some more notes right here. All right, see, this just talks about other things. So we're going to move on to Judiciary. Judiciary deals with, this is our committee that deals with more so laws that are on the civil level. I serve on Judiciary B. Judiciary B deals with laws that are talking about criminal codes. And so the first one right here, House Bill 599, what this basically says is that if you are a corporate entity such as Facebook or social media, whatever it is, if you are allowing people to put child porn on your platform and not erasing it or not doing anything to enforce the law, this basically says that you can be sued civilly for those actions. So we're doing this because we want to make sure that we're holding everybody accountable. Now, Facebook is not responsible for things that people post on there. I mean, they are responsible, but it's hard for them to control it. We understand that. But what we're saying is you got to put some safeguards into effect. When we talk about AI and all of this, hey, you got to do something, because we have to make sure that we're putting a stop to all of this nasty stuff, that's happening that people are putting on there. House Bill 1193. So what this does is, and I'm not going to talk much about this because I could talk about it all night. This is an anti-DEI legislation that was passed, that Democrats in both chambers opposed it. And when we look at what's going on with the elimination of our DEI safeguards, it's affecting our state, it's affecting our country. And at the end of the day, the people that this was meant to hurt are not really the ones that are going to be affected by it. So we just want to keep watching to see how that trickles down the pipeline. I got good news today. I saw that this law is being challenged. And so the ACLU is actively fighting against House Bill 1193. And so I'm happy to hear that. We have to make sure that we're talking about, equality. We're talking about fairness all across the board. That's for every single person. Every single citizen of this state should be treated fairly, no matter what the color of your skin, sexual orientation, sexual preference, familial status, anything of that sort. It should not matter. You should be looking at that person's qualifications, looking at that person's character. Get out of folks' personal life and That's why we have problems that we have now, because we dig too deep and get in business that we shouldn't be getting into. Like they say, mind the business that pays you. Hey there, Miss Mary Briley. Thank you so much for tuning in all the way from Columbus, Ohio. Miss Briley, I cannot wait to see you next weekend on the 5th of July. So have a safe trip getting here. All right, so we're going to, and 1193, that only deals with our it deals with our state-owned buildings, so state-owned schools and public schools and charter schools, I think, are included as well. So this is not for private businesses. It's only for, state businesses. All right, so House Bill 1197. So what 1197 does is, people here in Jackson, I know that let me make sure I got this right. Okay, yeah. So 1197, what this does is, they call this the Safe Solicitation Act. So what this says is that if you're going to be panhandling, or you're going to be in the right of way or at intersections, and you're selling something for profit, or you are panhandling, what this says is it's going to be outlawed unless you go to the municipal clerk of the city you're doing it in, pay $25 and get a permit, which is good for 24 hours. With that, only one person per intersection. With that, you cannot solicit when the sun goes down. You can't solicit before the sun comes up. A lot of people aren't happy about this, but at the end of the day, we got to think about public safety. And there have been times where I've gone and light goes red and people from everywhere come out in the middle of the street holding up traffic. We've had incidences where people have gotten run over, out doing these things. So we're just trying to make sure that our people are safe, as well as our consumers are safe. Because if you have a person out on the side of the road and, selling fruits and vegetables, then you don't know anything about this person. If this person sells you something bad, guess what? It's no way that we will know who it is. If you say, well, somebody sold me this, a man in a blue truck sold me this, we won't know who they are. However, with this permit, if you say, well, I went and bought fruit off of the Highway 18 intersection on Tuesday, March the 3rd, then guess what? We can look back at the records and we'll know exactly who that person was, so that we can figure out what's going on with that person. So we got to realize that we are living in different times right now. It's different than it was in the 1980s and 1990s and 2000s. And so we got to realize, as times change, legislation has to change, because at the end of the day, it's our duty to make sure that we're protecting and taking care of every single person in our districts. All right, y'all. Look at this. Is me and Miss Edwina Fox on my notes page. That was at the Oak Grove Martin Luther King Day program this past year. All right, so we're going to move on to House Bill 1200. And that's right, Miss Mary Briley, diversity, equality, and inclusion. Absolutely. We got to make sure that we're being fair all across the board for every single person. That's only right. So House Bill 1200, it's called the Real Properties Owner Protection Act. Y'all, it's strange when I look at these bills. I'm like, what is that? Because this was known as the Squatters Bill, is what we called it. So when I saw that, I'm like, what is it? But this is a Squatters Bill. What's going on, honey? My honey love, Miss Brittany Bowman over there. Brittany, thank you for all your support, and thank you for coming out last night. Y'all, she served as a now, Ms. Bowman, now don't you get on now. We try and have a serious moment with the state of the district. You're talking about folks' haircut and all that. But she really ran the show last night and really held it down. And she did an amazing job, as she always does, in maintaining order. And I really appreciate you. Erica, appreciate you. Alderwoman Gibson, appreciate you. All of the new alderwomen from the city of Terry, appreciate all of y'all. Y'all just really came up and got together and showed out. Simmons Bowman, you get me sidetracked. All right, y'all, let me get my eyes back on the screen. So House Bill 1200, that is our squatters bill. Now, when I first heard about it, now I was a co-author on this bill, so let me give y'all my story on it. When I first heard about a squatters bill, I was against it, because whenever we're passing legislation, one thing I always the one question I ask myself is, can this legislation be used to can this be used to weaponize people? And when I thought about squatters, I said, okay, let's think about it. If we have a landlord and the landlord is mad because the tenant not paying rent, I don't want to make it where that landlord can go and put this person's stuff out on the street without having to go through court. And so I was kind of hesitant, but in co-authoring the legislation, we were able to put some good buffers in there, which are, if there's a squatter living in your property, you call the police department, the police will come out, give them a 3-day notice, and you have 3 days to leave this property. If you are not a squatter, you have to go to the justice court and file an appeal. If you file that appeal, you'll be given a court date and you don't have to leave in the 3 days. However, if no appeal is filed on the 4th day, officers can come back out and then an owner of that property can put your things out and remove you from the property. And so that's the buffer in that is making sure that, you know, people have proper due process. Because if you have a true, genuine squatter, they're not going to go to justice court. They're just going to move. Now, we want to make sure that people are protected. And so if you're in that property in the situation I just talked about, so if you're in that property as a holdover tenant, meaning you haven't paid rent and the homeowner wants to declare you as a squatter, if you go file that paperwork and go to court, and if you go to court and you have your lease agreement and you can prove that this owner is trying to weaponize this bill and attack you illegally, that owner can be fined and imprisoned up to 6 months. And so that protects you, that protects not you, but it protects a tenant, because a tenant is different than a squatter. And so I'm happy about this bill, because I've seen instances, and I heard of instances where I had a person that was living in had an investment property I was rehabbing, and the guy moved in the property in the middle of the rehab, and the police said, you cannot put him out because he has rights. I'm like, what? Because squatter was not really defined in state statute. And so I went back and forth, trying to go to court. And in the midst of all that, guess what happened? He burned my house down. So this is going to be beneficial because it allows our property owners to protect their properties. All right, so we're moving on to Judiciary B, which is a committee I serve on. As I said earlier, this is where the criminal laws come through, laws that are affecting criminal code sections. And I chose to be on Judiciary B. Everybody like, well, why you want to be on Judiciary B? That's a boring committee. I say it might be a boring committee, but at the same time, it's an important committee, because when we're talking about criminal laws, want to make sure that we are passing good legislation that's not going to impede on anybody's rights. And so I really enjoy being on Judiciary B. We have an amazing chairman, Chairman Haran, amazing vice chair, which is Jensen Owens. So I love being on Judiciary B. I know y'all know this young man. He actually ran Jonathan Control. He ran for gosh, I can't think of the ward. I want to say Ward 5, Alderman Ward 5. He ran for alderman in the city of Jackson. I don't want to put the ward because I don't want to mess up. So the first bill we're talking about is House Bill 565. This is one bill. It passed. I'm sorry, Ms. Bowman corrected me. That's right, councilman. So Jackson has councilman and Ward 6. Let me get that right, because I'm used to alderman in other areas. So he went for councilman in Ward 6. Y'all see Ms. Bowman also is our historian. And so this bill we're talking about now, it passed unanimously in both chambers. I was very proud to support this bill. Let me tell y'all something. A lot of people don't know this. So, and I'm going to use Rankin County for an example. And there's no pun intended or no attack on Rankin County. We're going to talk about the Goon Squad for a moment. So when we look at the Goon Squad, well, they went to prison, so they won't be able to hold a law enforcement office ever again if they ever see the daylight again outside of the jail. But if we have an officer that is terminated, no criminal charges filed, but an officer that's terminated for misconduct, disciplinary proceedings, or is under investigation and they resign, Guess what? This does not go on their record. And so they can leave one county or one city or one law enforcement entity and go work at another one without being on the radar. What this legislation right here does is it says that if there's an officer being investigated for misconduct, terminated for misconduct, that it is reported to a database that all law enforcement agencies have access to. So this will stop people that are trying to beat the system and go and work in other areas in the law enforcement arena. So I think that this is good that we have this in place. A lot of other states have it in place, so I think that's good. House Bill 623, this says that our public defenders will be able to get an additional $3,000. House Bill 624, it increases the salary of full-time criminal investigators for district attorneys to $75,000. I'm not sure what the current salary is. I think it's in the neighborhood of the 60s, but don't quote me on that. And House Bill 861, this is called the Good Samaritan Act, Medical Emergency Good Samaritan Act. So let's talk about 861 for a moment. So what 861 says is, this is one of the first pictures I took at the Capitol right after I won my election. So what that says is, it says that if a person, so if, let's just say if a person is doing drugs or, you know, illegal substances or something they shouldn't be doing, and that person, you know, gets raped. What this says is that if you are with this person and you call and report it, that no criminal charges will be filed on the person that reports this for doing drugs. And so what we're doing is we're trying to create a safe space where people can report crimes without being attacked. Now, if you're the rapist and you call and report it, then yeah, you're going to be prosecuted for rape. But a lot of times we'll see, you know, people at a party and, you know, doing things they shouldn't be doing, partying, doing drugs. And also this goes for overdoses too. So if there's a call from a person that's overdosed, that person, the law enforcement will come, ambulance, get that person to treatment, but they're not going to be telling people in the party, oh, you're going to jail, you're going to, you know, drug testing people. And so we did this because what you'll see happen sometimes is people can go to a party, somebody can OD, and then they will just leave this person there ODing because they don't want to go to jail and have charges pressed on them. You really see who your friends are when the law is involved. So we did this not to encourage people to do drugs. We did this because we want to make sure that people feel safe at, you know, calling in and reporting things when they happen. House Bill 1189. What this does is this bill increases deposits that are made into the Victim of Human Trafficking and Commercial Sex Exploitation Fund. And it's going to be adding fines to misdemeanor violations. Now, they can't be any less than $100 nor more than $1,000. But we have to, y'all, I'm sorry, I had a little notice here. Okay. I'm sorry, y'all. We had an issue with our LinkedIn feed. I'm gonna just remove it. Okay, y'all, I'm back. So LinkedIn viewers, I'm sorry, you had to come over to YouTube or Facebook. And so with the bill, we're just making sure we can put more money into a fund that really needs this money. All right, House Bill 1338. What this allows is this paves the way for more entities to get unmarked. No. This is into a resolution. Yes, it does. I'm looking at two things here. Is the manufacturers, which contain the manufacturer number. Okay, so what this does is it allows them to get unmarked vehicles, and so a lot of law enforcement officers said, you know, we need more unmarked vehicles for investigations and things of that sort. And so that's what 1138 does. House Bill 1509. That does, y'all. This is my sister-in-law, Alita Nelson. She came up, she snuck into the Capitol one day, and I was able to catch her before she left. So House Bill 1509. What this does is it sets the salary for district attorneys to 95% of the salary that's authorized to circuit and chancery court judges. So just make sure that the district attorneys are not making more than the actual judges that are hearing the cases. All right. I don't have any questions. Nobody's asked any questions. So either I'm doing a great job of explaining everything. And that's what we're going to count it as. I guess I'm doing a great job, or we have some shy people. But look, please drop your questions down there if you have questions. Senate Bill 2208, this enhances the penalty for people that make terroristic threats against airports. I think it's a minimum of 5 years that you're going to be going to prison for if you making terroristic threats at airports. So basically, you call the airport and tell them it's a bomb in the airport or a terrorist attack, whatever. When we find out who you are, you're gonna be really prosecuted. Yeah, a minimum of 5 years in the custody of Mississippi Department of Corrections, and you can also be fined. But people may say, well, why is this a big deal? It's a big deal at airports because when threats are called in, basically airplanes can't land, and so you're basically have really disrupted the whole traveling field as far as airplanes can't land, can't take off. And so you really mess a lot of stuff up, in playing these games. And so please don't do it. Senate Bill 2211. So what this bill does is it provides that a victim of sexual assault has to be informed in writing whenever rape kits are done. So when rape kits are done, we have a whole lot of them in the crime lab right now. They're discarded after a certain amount of time. In the past, we had to give a 20-day notice. However, now we have to give a 60-day notice to our victims that, hey, your rape kit is getting ready to be discarded, pertinent to Mississippi Law Code section such and such. But what happens now is if that victim writes back and says, I don't want my rape kit destroyed, I want it to remain on file, we have to hold on to it. So this makes sure that we're keeping that evidence because that's important. We see cases, cold cases right now that happened 20 years ago that we have DNA evidence and we're able to go back and prosecute those cases. And so in the case, there may be a case where a victim may say after so many years, they may say, I've come to peace with it. I want to put this behind me. I don't have a problem with you disposing it. That's your right. However, we want victims that are going to say, because some are saying that, hey, look, I'm going to fight this until the day I die. And with a victim like that, we want to make sure that we're holding them to that rape kit and letting them know that we're going to do every single thing we can to locate the perpetrator. And so I think that that's I know that that's a great bill. It should have happened before now. 20 days is not ample amount of time. When you think of the way the USPS is working right now, I mean, they may not get into the 19th day. So giving them 60 days is ample amount of time. Thank you so much, Ms. Briley. Thank you. I really appreciate that. Now we're going to move on to Medicaid, House Bill 662. One of my platform issues was and still is Medicaid expansion. We came that close to getting it last year. We didn't get it. However, we were able to get a little piece of it by passing presumptive eligibility for pregnant women. So the way this works is, this was passed last year, but we had to come back and change a code section to clean some of the language up. But the way this works is, if a young lady is pregnant and she has no health care coverage, no insurance, and she qualifies for Medicaid, but she's not currently receiving it, she can go fill out her paperwork for Medicaid benefits. They'll do a preliminary look at it. So if looking at preliminary, if her income is in line with what has to be and she meets the criteria, she's going to get day one benefits. Now, we still have to go through and process the application and all of that, but she can go start seeing a doctor, an OBGYN immediately. The reason that we did that is because in the past, if you were pregnant and you went and you filled this paperwork out, guess what happened? You would have to wait 30, 45, maybe 60 days for your Medicaid to be approved before you can go get prenatal care. And when we look at infant mortality, pregnant women, pregnant women mortality in Mississippi, we have the highest rates in the nation. Being our ladies are not able to get the health care that they need as early as they can. But with this is going to help them make sure that they can get coverage immediately. And so I'm very, very happy about that. It's not full Medicaid expansion, but this helps out a lot, especially with our ladies in the Delta. And y'all, this is one I'm over here, Food Truck Friday. That's one of our vendors. She got an apron on, y'all. I can't think of what her food truck is, but she has some good food out there. So Food Truck Friday every first Friday of the month. So we got it coming up in July. It's not going to be July 4th because that's Friday. I think we're going to probably bump it to second week, but we'll get an announcement out about that. All right, so House Bill 1401, this establishes community health worker certification program, which they will be working through the health department, and basically they will be out there in our communities trying to provide resources for our, Mississippians. There we go. Y'all, I'm sorry, I had a lighting issue. I was trying to adjust. There we go. Much, much better. So this community, we have community health workers that are out able to give resources in our areas and tell people what the resources available to them are. Now, remember I told y'all that a bill can become a law in two ways, either by governor's signature or governor's veto. A governor's signature or the governor not signing. When we look at 1401, the governor didn't sign this and it became effective because he didn't sign it. But we're grateful that it wasn't vetoed. All right, so Senate Bill 2396. This is something a lot of people don't know about, which I actually learned about. We have accounts that we established. I think code section 4313-317, and it's called an ABLE account. So the S stands for Achieving a Better Life Experience. So what you can do is you can, when you're working or before you retire, you can put this like a retirement account. You can put money in this account, and of course you have tax benefits and all that good stuff. But what happens is you can put this money in the account. So if you receive Medicaid, what happens is our seniors, if our seniors have to go to a nursing home, and if they receive Medicaid, when they pass away, Medicaid comes after the assets for their assets for reimbursement. So Medicaid can come after your home, bank accounts, retirement, any type of income you have for reimbursement. What this bill does is it says that this ABLE account cannot be touched by Medicaid. So whatever it is you have in that account, it goes to your family, to your descendants. Now the other stuff still does apply, unfortunately, but the ABLE account is a vehicle that it won't apply to. And so, what we're going to be doing is we're going to be out there educating our constituents on ABLE accounts. And I don't know much about them. I just learned about it when we worked on this law. So we want to make sure that we can get this information out there to our people. Military affairs. This is another committee I serve on, proudly serve on. I've never been in the military. My closest thing to being in the military was when I was in JROTC in 9th grade of high school. And that showed me that I wasn't cut out for the military physically. However, my dad is a veteran, grandfather's a veteran, have a lot of veterans around me. But I chose to be on military affairs because right after I won my election, I was down in Gulfport. Me and my sons were in Gulfport, and we were at McDonald's, and there was a guy at McDonald's, and he was a homeless guy because he brought his bags in and everything. And I saw that he was homeless, and so he was, I did a mobile order on my phone. I ordered him some food, and my kids went and gave it to him, and we started engaging in conversation. And as we were engaging in conversation, he told me that I'm a veteran, I'm homeless, and there were issues, and I could tell that there was a mental health issue going on with them, as a lot of our veterans have, which is why they're homeless. And so after that, I said, I want to do whatever it is I can do, for our veterans. And so I chose military affairs as one of the top committees that I wanted to be on, because anytime you have a person that will put their life on the line to serve this country, to protect this country so that we can have freedom, so that we can have freedom of religion, freedom of press. You have people putting their life on the line. There's no reason we should not be giving them every single resource that we possibly can. And so that's why I chose to be on military affairs. The first bill I'm talking about is one that I'm really proud of, House Bill 1268. It is establishing a service member task force. And what this task force is going to be charged with doing is looking at what do we need to do to provide mental health resources to our veterans. What other resources do we need to be providing to our veterans? And so I'm excited about that. A lot of people, when we say task force, they think that, oh, they're just getting this dummy board that's not going to do anything and just for namesake. But I'm going to tell you, since I've been in the legislature, I see that these task forces in Mississippi work. Our infant mortality, we have a task force through the health department. When we're looking at the numbers, we're seeing a decrease, although we're still the highest in the nation, but we're seeing that we're seeing improvements, because when we have a task force, they make recommendations, and it's so much easier to pass legislation when we have a track record and we have the receipts in front of us. When this task force comes in, and I'm not sure the shape up of it, but I'm sure it's going to be some high-ranking military officials on this task force. But when they come and say, this is what the legislature needs to do, we're going to do it. And so I'm happy about that one. Senate Bill 2052, this says that for our veterans that are 100% disabled, they get a license plate, and they only pay $1 for that license plate. All right, that's my official portrait, my official state portrait. Municipalities. So let's talk about House Bill 807. This is another piece of legislation I'm very, very proud of. This establishes the Division of Autism Services within the Bureau of Intellectual and Development Disabilities, which is housed by the State Department of Mental Health. And so autism is something that I'm not going to say has been ignored, but there has not been a lot of talk about it here in Mississippi. There has not been a lot of awareness about it. And so this is a nationwide issue, and not only in Mississippi, so that I'm fair, all across the country. Autism has been around for a very, very long time. However, it did not have a classification of autism. It didn't really have per se a name or a diagnosis. But in modern medicine, we're able to diagnose autism and start talking about resources. So I'm happy that this board is being formed. As y'all remember, my first year in the legislature, I was able to I co-authored legislation with Representative Clay Menzel, which represents House District 56, which is in Clinton, for the Purple Alert. And I brought that bill to the floor. And what the Purple Alert does is we're the second state in the country to have it. I think Florida's #1. We're the second state. So it's good for us to be, in the top tier of things for once in a change. But what the Purple Alert does is it creates a new alert. So if a person with autism becomes missing, same as a silver alert or amber alert, this is called a purple alert, which will notify authorities that, hey, this is a person with autism. Why is it? So a lot of people are asking, why is it important that we have a special alert for people with autism? It seems like it's really stigmatizing people with autism to do that. And my answer to that is that no, this is possibly saving a person with autism's life, because there was a young man in another state a few months ago. He was autistic. The police went and they thought he was trying to attack them because he was aggressive, and they shot him. He went in the hospital and he later died. So with this Purple Alert, it lets our law enforcement officers know, handle with care, so that if they see a person and the person is not complying or becomes combative with them, they will know that this person is, suffering from autism, and we need to be careful with, how we're handling them. So I was proud of that legislation. I'm proud of this one as well. House Bill 1063. This bill establishes paid parental leave to the primary parent, which is a state employee. So if you work for the state of Mississippi, excluding teachers, if you're a state employee, once you have a child or either adopt a child, You get 6 weeks of work, 6 weeks off of work with full pay. And so initially, this was proposed in the House. We were asking for 8 weeks to the primary parent, and we wanted to take care of the fathers, and so we were going to ask for 2 weeks for fathers, for this, and we were going to include teachers. But when it got to the Senate kind of took all of that out. But we're going to keep working on it because our teachers need to be included, and our fathers need to be included because we won't spend time with our babies just as much as the mother does. So we're going to work on that to get our fathers included. We deserve it. Hey, we talk about what elimination of DEI. Well, hey, you saying that you don't want to give a one person preference, and so this is give preferential treatment to the primary caregiver and not the secondary one. So we need to say, we did what's good for the goose is good for the gander. We need to give our fathers parental paid leave also to spend some time with those babies. All right, moving on down to House Bill 1094. Oh, I think the objection. Miss Briley, you asked a great question. I was just going to go into it. The explanation. We've heard a lot of them. One of the things from the Senate was we have a teacher shortage, and so with a teacher shortage, if we're going to have teachers out for 6 weeks at a time and on maternity leave, and that's going to cause a problem. My response to that was, I just cannot fathom that any person, any female or woman or lady would say, I'm gonna go have a baby so I can get 6 weeks off of work for pay. And so the way that it works is this is not going to change the amount of our teachers that are having babies, but it's going to provide aid to our teachers that are, having babies. Because quiet is kept. When we talk about FMLA, our teachers can take off time still anyway. And so they get maternity leave and things of that sort. And so that should be a benefit for our teachers to be able to receive as well. Now, a caveat to that is if we don't want to give our teachers parental leave for 6 weeks, we need to raise their pay because our teachers are still some of the lowest paid educators in the country. So they say, well, we're not going to give paid parental leave, but we're going to give our teachers an extra $5,000-$6,000 a year. I said, okay, you know what? Hey, I'll take it. But we got to make sure we're taking care of our educators. So, Ms. Briley, I think that I'm not going to say I think, but I'm pretty sure this is going to be revisited again once Mississippi Association of Educators and Parents Campaign get wind to it. I think that they're going to probably try to push for our teachers. And a lot of times when we have legislation that's kind of drastic, we have to kind of chip away a little at a time. And so now that the door is open, we can maybe come back next session and say we want to include teachers from K through 6 or, something of this sort. But we're going to keep on fighting and chipping away at it because another group of people I'm very passionate about is teachers. So teachers, law enforcement, our military veterans, and our military enlisted people. All right. If you got any more questions about it, Ms. Briley, please feel free to drop them in there. House Bill 1094, it exempts from, I'm going to skip over this one. That's not really much. We're going to go to Senate Bill 2691. What this bill does is it basically changes our law for the age of tobacco use in Mississippi from 18 to 21. That's already federal law, but it's not state law, meaning if an instance like that comes up, we have to prosecute it through federal court and not state court. So now, since the law mirrors the federal law, we'll be able to go through our state court. And y'all, this is Alderwoman Ella Green down in Utica, Mississippi. We were out here at Heinz in Utica. They have a festival, Eat Your Homecoming, and we were out there, and that was Alderwoman Ella Green, one of my really good friends. House Bill 2743. What this does is anytime you want to get a certified copy of a birth certificate or death certificate in Mississippi, you have to pay a fee. I apologize. I don't know what the fee is. This is not changing the fee at all. But what it's doing is it is redirecting Hold on one second. Let me make sure I got this right, y'all. Okay, I'm sorry. I wanted to make sure that I got it right. So what it does is this this changes where the money goes. So what happens now is anytime you get a birth certificate or death certificate, it has to go to a program that supports maternal, infant, and child health. And it has to be through the Department of Health. So it's not like a nonprofit, but like I'll talk about the task force initiatives that we're trying to put out there. But we're trying to have a new funding source for this. So it's a good bill, all in all. Senate Bill 2767. What this bill does is our federal government sued a lot of our pharmaceutical companies for the opioid crisis, got several $billions. Mississippi is set to receive several $100 million. I think we have about $100 million year to date that has come in. So what this does is this establishes a task force that will be determining how the opioid settlement money and funds are used. And this task force has been appointed. I'm not sure who was put on it, but I did see an alert about it being appointed. But we have to watch and make sure that these funds are going to where they need to go as far as combating the opioid crisis. Y'all, I go back to 2 sessions ago, House Bill 1137, my very first bill as a freshman, got it passed, signed into law. That bill or law now provides Narcan to all community organizations, schools. It expanded accessibility of it. And when I tell you, I was getting calls every other day and emails, I still get them from time to time, telling me how there was a person that was OD'd on fentanyl, and they were able to administer Narcan and was able to save that person's life. And so that really made me feel good knowing that, this was a bill I worked on that was able to influence the 3 million Mississippians' lives. Thank you, Ms. Brown. Ms. Brown said $53. We was talking about our birth certificates. Thanks for throwing that out there. All right, so public property. So Senate Bill 2426, it creates an artificial intelligence regulation task force. What this does is this is basically saying since AI is here, we're having to make sure that we're putting legislation in place to govern it, because as of right now, we have very minimal regulation on AI because AI is something new. So we have to make sure that we're putting good measures in place as it pertains to AI. So that's why we have that task force. And the last thing I do want to talk about is $9.5 million that the governor announced last about a week or two ago. This money, this is stemming from AWS. That was our largest economic development project here in the state. I got to brag, I was co-author on the legislation, but what we did in there is we designated that they had to provide, I want to say $10 million to go towards workforce development programs to teach our Mississippians how to use AI so that they can go and get jobs at some of these factories and things that are dealing with AI. This is just an appropriation breakdown. 1.15 going to Alcorn, 390K to Belhaven, 1.3 million to Thee I Love, Jackson State University, 1 million to Millsaps, 723 to Mississippi College, 2.2 million to Mississippi State University, 1.24 to University of Southern Mississippi, and 1.08 to Tougaloo. And so, when we look at it, it looks like most of our state entities were taken care of. And this funding is going to be used for them to develop programs for workforce development and develop curriculum so that they can make sure that we're getting our Mississippians ready for, I'm sorry, on my phone going up, getting our Mississippians ready for, for the AI workforce. And so, y'all, that is the summary on the major legislation in Mississippi for this 2025 session. Well, I spoke too fast. The one most important piece of legislation, and I say the best for last, is Mississippi House Bill 1. And this is the comprehensive tax overhaul bill that we passed, one of the first pieces of legislation we worked on. And so I do want to kind of talk about House Bill 1 a little bit because there's been a lot of misunderstanding, a lot of misstatements that have been made about it. So I want to put the facts out there, and me putting the facts out there, that's not trying to convince, persuade, influence anybody to change their view on it, because I understand we're not going to always agree on things, but that's the beauty of our political system. It gives us the right to not agree on things, but to have conversations about it. So with House Bill 1, what this does is ultimately it's a plan to eliminate the state income tax here in Mississippi. And FYI, I voted in favor. I voted yes on this bill. It came back 3 times. I voted yes all 3 times on it. Come back again, I vote yes on it again. And I'm going to give you my reasoning as to why I voted in favor of it, because some people didn't. But it's a state income tax elimination bill. Now, state income tax, and we talk about state income, we're talking about people at work, so not retail tax or anything like that. But state income tax accounts for $2.6 billion, 2.6 billion of our state budget. Our state budget this year was, I think, 7.6 billion. So it's about 1/3 of our state budget. So I understand the concern when we talk about eliminating that much of our state budget, because $2.6 billion is a lot of money. However, this is a phase out plan, meaning that with our projections, our state income tax will be phased out by 2041. I'll probably be retired by then, but my kids and grandkids can benefit from it. So what happens is, for the first 3 years, beginning in 2027, not 2027, we're going to see a 0.25% reduction until the state income tax is reduced to 3%. After it is reduced to 3%, we have triggers in place that are going to determine at what rate we're going to be reducing it. But even with the triggers in place, worst case scenario or best case scenario, the most that it will be reduced by is between 0.2 and 0.3%. So it's not going to be radical where the trigger hits is automatically eliminated, which some people have said. But no, even with the triggers, it's still a phase down approach. State of Kansas, because a lot of people compare this to what happened in the state of Kansas. State of Kansas say, you know what, we want to reduce income tax, so we're going to do it right away. We're going to reduce in-state income tax, corporate income tax. Day one, we're going to reduce it. They cut it, and the state fell miserably because they cut it too fast. That's why we're doing a phase-down approach. Now, quiet as kept, Mississippi for the past 8 to 10 years has been going through state income tax reform with income tax being reduced. And so this is no different as to what has been happening over the course of years. We just had a reduction this year. I'm not sure of what it was. And so I want everybody to understand that we're not taking $2.6 billion out of the budget immediately. Now, moving forward, last year, Mississippi, we ranked number 2 as far as the fastest growing economies in the country, which a lot of people aren't talking about that. And I'm saying that to say the reason we're taking the phase down approach to tax elimination is we're going to give ourselves time to make sure that we are still growing our economy to where we will be able to make up for this $2.6 billion and attract people to our state. There are a lot of people in North Mississippi right now that live in Tennessee because they don't want to pay state income tax. And so they live in Tennessee. So that's something that we have to consider when we're talking about income taxes. This is big for some people. This will put money in people's pockets. And when this bill came along, I said, I will never, as long as y'all see fit to have me in public office, I will never vote against a bill that will cut taxes for our middle class population. Historically, we see where the top 10% earners getting drastic tax cuts, and our middle and lower class citizens are having to foot the bill. In this instance, this does not do that. This says if you go to work and if you work, your income tax will be eliminated. Now, there's an argument that the top 10% earners will benefit from this more. because, and they're absolutely right. They will benefit more because they're currently paying more in income tax and they're earning more money. But our middle class citizens, guess what? They're going to benefit because they're not having to pay state income tax. And when we look at the tax code right now, and I challenge anybody to look at it, it's chapter 27 of the Mississippi Code. If you look at chapter 27, there are title 27. There are three volumes. They're right behind me. But if you look at title 27, I want you to look at something. I want you to look at the current tax code. The current tax code right now has it where our top 10% earners are paying a low percentage in income tax than our lower earners are. So the tax code is not fair right now. So moving forward, because there are some things in here that I do want to make sure people are aware of. What's going to happen is with our grocery taxes, which are 7%, which are the highest in the nation, will be reduced to 5% effective July 1. Our fuel tax, which is the number two lowest fuel tax in the country right now, will be increased July 1. There will be a 3-cent increase on fuel tax. Next year, another 3%. The year after, another 3%. We're increasing fuel tax by a total of 9% over the next 3 years to 27 cents per gallon. And so when I heard about the fuel tax, I opposed it initially because I don't want to raise fuel tax. But when I saw the reasoning behind this, it makes sense. Fuel tax in Mississippi has not been adjusted since 1984, 1986, roughly. So for 30 years, almost 40 years, I was born in 85, so almost 40 years, we have not increased our fuel tax. That's hurt the state because our fuel tax goes to MDOT, which fixes our state roads, our bridges, things of that sort. So due to our inability to increase our fuel tax, we have not been able to, we have been, but we've had to find other funding sources for MDOT. One funding source for MDOT that a lot of people don't know is the state lottery. In other states, the state lottery is tailored for education. Representative Alice Clark fought tirelessly as a strong advocate of education for the state lottery because she wanted to see more money coming in for public education. Well, the only way the lottery was able to be passed is the fact that they had to, because I wasn't there, they had to give $80 million of that money to MDOT for roads, and the rest goes to the EEF, which is the Education Enhancement Fund, which it has a lot to do with the funding for pre-K, because pre-K is not included in our education Department of Education budget line items. So with this, we're increasing this because now every single person, and the way I see this is when you're paying state income tax, you're basically paying, the more you work, the more you're going to pay. You go pay, we're going to take it out of your paycheck. After it comes out of your paycheck, you go to Walmart, guess what? 7% sales tax that you're being double taxed. However, when we move to a form of a consumption tax, which is meaning that if you don't buy gas, you're not paying taxes. However, if you're paying gas to go somewhere, then you're going to be paying a little additional tax. When we think about people traveling through Mississippi, tearing our roads up, 18-wheelers coming through the state, tearing our roads up, guess what? They're not contributing because we don't have toll roads, which a lot of states have. So they're driving through, tearing our roads up. And guess what? Us, the taxpayers in Mississippi, are having to give money to MDOT to fix our roads for other people to come and drive across. And so this right here is going to put more money into MDOT's budget to get some much needed projects done. And hopefully MDOT can become self-reliant on this, where we don't have to have a line item in our budget. And we give a lot of money to MDOT out of our state budget, general funds, to compensate and make sure our roads are well taken care of. And so with the fuel, and even once this fuel tax is increased, we still will be at a very competitive rate with lower states. Now, the problem is this has been pushed down the road for so long because, when people look at politics, politicians, I don't want to do that. I don't want to raise taxes because, that I'm trying to win re-election and that's going to hurt me in the polls. But being an elected official, people have elected us to go and be their voice. Not a lot of times, but well, yeah, quite a few times we have to make decisions that are not popular decisions by our people, but that are right thing to do. And this is the right thing to do. If we have been increasing gasoline tax by according to the word I'm looking for, according to the National Highway Construction Cost Index, that's a formula that they use, a nationwide formula. But had we been staying in tune with that, guess what? It would have been rising slowly. It wouldn't be an all of a sudden 9% increase after 3 years. But however, what's going to happen is this won't happen again because going forward, we will be following the Highway Construction Cost Index and increasing as we have to. However, we have agreed to not allow it to be the increase to be more than 1 cent, in a calendar year as a metric. Sorry. One more thing. Well, one thing that I don't like is everything else is good. One thing I don't like about this bill is the PERS, so Public Employee Retirement System. There have been some changes to it. There now is a Tier 5 program within PERS. Now, what will happen is members after March 1, 2026. So if you are currently a PERS member, this doesn't affect you, but it will be affecting anybody that is hired by the state after March 1. But what happens is it's a Tier 5 program. You will be immediately vested. It will allow you to talk about how you want your money invested in mutual funds, whatever it is. You want to be aggressive or not aggressive. But one thing it does that's very, very bad is it eliminates the cost of living increase, i.e. the 13th check. So for new employees, they will not be getting that 13th check that a lot of people look forward to. And so with this, we are still going to have to work on public employee retirement system. Speaker Jason White announced yesterday a select committee over the summer that's going to be studying PERS and figuring out what it is we need to do where we can maintain the benefits that we have for people that are still coming into the system, because the system right now is a pretty good system. Now, when we started first talking about House Bill 1 in the House, we wanted to, that 85 million that was going to MDOT, we wanted to take 100 million and put into PERS each year until we had PERS funded with only a deficit of operational deficit of, I think, 5 to 10%. And so that was one plan that we had. Of course, it didn't work in the Senate, but that's one of my top priorities next session is to work with lawmakers on revamping this PERS piece of the bill, because this is not going to be good when we're trying to recruit for our law enforcement officers, first responders. Our fire chief here, Chief Harry Horton in the city of Byram, he has been working very, very hard along with some of the other fire chiefs with providing a proposal, which we've been looking at. And so I want the taxpayers to understand that we're still working on PERS. It's going to take some work, and we're going to work on it. We're going to make it better. This is just talk a little bit more about PERS and all of that stuff. This right here just talks about the special session, extraordinary session we went in. One thing I do want to mention about the special session is we were able to get a state budget passed to keep the state functioning as it should. We were able to fully fund education for the second year in a row, which I'm very proud of. One thing that I'm upset about is the fact that we did not give any money to anybody. So all of our districts, we returned back to our districts with no money for capital improvement projects. And so each year, that's what we normally do. We take stuff back to our districts for roads, for drainage projects and things of that sort. Well, this year we did not take anything home, which it's disappointing, very much so. Um, One narrative that has been going around is that, see, the income tax elimination is why nobody got projects. That's not true. And I'm going to show you, because I come with the receipts. I'm going to show you something real quickly here. I'm going to show you the state budget. The reason that we didn't get projects this year is because when you look at last year, our total state aid, and this is not counting federal money, our state aid support was $9.6 billion. So this year it was $7.8 billion. So there's almost about a $2 billion deficit that we're seeing in our budget from this year and last year. And people are saying, see, with the income tax elimination, $2.6 billion gone. That's where the money's coming from. No, it's not. When we look at this line items, and y'all may have a hard time seeing it. So I'm going to show y'all this. This is the Gulf Coast Restoration Fund. This is part of the BP oil spill money. That's $140 million that we had in that fund last year. This year, we have $0 in it. When we talk about COVID money, the ARPA money, this 27,000 right here, 109 million here, and right here, $1.2 billion. So what's happening is we don't have the same amount of money from these funds that have been exhausted, such as BP oil spill and ARPA funds this year. So of course, we're not going to be able to do as much as we were able to do in the past, but it's not from the tax cut. And so I want to make sure that people are getting accurate information, truthful information, because when we get out and we start putting false narratives out there, that doesn't move us forward any. And one thing about me is I'm going to be transparent with you. And if it was because of the tax cut, I would be saying right now, y'all, this tax cut has hurt us and we got to go back and we got to change it. But that's not what it's coming. That's not what it's coming. What it's coming from. It's coming from ARPA funds, Gulf Coast funds being depleted. But even with that being done, when we look at the budget, we were still able to, with it, and we had to make some cuts across the board, but we were still able to, number one, fully fund our education formula. Number two, keep our state agencies afloat. And so, that's how it all pans down. Y'all, and that's it. I'm gonna stick around. Y'all have any questions, let me know. But also in my book, I kind of took highlights from this session. I just really wanted to share with everybody, the journey of the year and the things, that we've done over the course of the year. It's more than just going to the Capitol each and every day, legislating bills. It's a lot of behind the scenes stuff. This is me presenting the bill. This is my colleague, the amazing Tamika James Jones, representing the Humphreys, Yazoo County, and Sharkey County. That's me at the Capitol one day. I was tired, y'all. I wasn't asleep. I was just tired. I was at an event at Johnny T's. I was here. That was me and Representative Ricky Thompson. We were speaking to a group at the Capitol. I can't remember the group. I don't want to call a name because I don't want anybody to call me saying you didn't give credit to us. We had Youth Leadership Jackson came up. That's me and Senator Frazier. That's me at the Capitol again. That's me and the freshman class. Attorney General Lynn Fitch took us out to dinner one night. We had a very good time. That's me and none other than my lady, Tamika James Jones. That is a community cleanup event that we had over in South Jackson. That's me. It was a little party that one of our lobbies had and invited us to. John Dillon, and this is Celeste, Representative Celeste, and this is Representative Kevin McCarty. I think he's on co-chair of education. I want to say, yeah, co-chair of education. That's me at a program, at a Martin Luther King program. That's a stepmom at the program as well up in Yazoo at Oak Grove Church. That's just, like I said, that's just us at the Capitol doing different things. Boys and Girls Club right here. This is one of our groups. They really advocate for immigration legislation. They came to see me one day at the Capitol. I met with them. They were concerned about the bounty hunter bill that a lot of y'all heard about. And I told them that there's no way in hell that bill will pass. And if we were able to get that bill killed, I said, we're not going to allow anybody to go and hunt down people like their dogs. And when I thought about that, I thought about how back in the day during slavery times when, our ancestors would escape the plantation, and they would turn the dogs loose to go chase them and hunt them down. And so I said, no, we're not going. Those times are gone. We're not going back to that. And quick fact, hush puppies. The way hush puppies got their name is, or came into fruition, is the cooks would they made hush puppies, made them into these little bitty balls, and they're called hush puppies because when the slaves would escape, they would leave a trail of hush puppies behind them, because what happens is the dogs would stop to eat the hush puppies, allowing them more time to get away. And so they call them hush puppies because the dogs hush because the dogs wouldn't bark and they were too busy trying to eat. That's me at the wheel presenting the bill. That's me right there at Timberline doing Read Across America Day. These is some of our amazing community partners. Judge Lewis and First Lady Lewis. That's Miss Willa from Friends of Jackson. I don't know everybody's name, so I'm gonna stop right there. This is my oldest brother. He came to visit us at the Capitol for Omega Sci-Fi Day. That's my oldest nephew, William Nelson IV. He was actually at the Capitol. He was a page for the lieutenant governor this year. That's me presenting the domestic violence bill, which we passed unanimously to establish a task force for our domestic violence problem that we have here in the state. Miss Mary Bradley, you'll be here on the 27th of June through July 7th. You let me know when you want to come down here and visit me at the Capitol. I would love to have you down here. Now, Miss Bradley, I know you remember last time you came down, you wanted to go to the rotunda to see my desk and what desk I was going to be sitting at. And the rotunda was closed for renovations. And I said, well, I promise next time I'll take you to my desk. Well, I'm sorry, Miss Bradley, but guess what? The rotunda is closed again because they're doing construction to our dome this time. But come on down and you can come to my office and see my office, and definitely we're gonna hang out and we're gonna catch up. At the Capitol. That's me at Southern Soul Day that we had. That's me at our donut shop down in Terry, Mississippi. I had to go try them out. That's me, Senator Blunt, Representative Foster, Representative Holloway, and Pastor Chrysler down at Terry High School for the Ministerial Alliance program that they had. And that's an Attorney General picture again. Y'all, that's me at a community cleanup. That is me and Representative Tamika James Jones from Humphreys County again. That is me at the Byron City Hall Board of Aldermen meeting. I was addressing the audience about some legislation. I think it was actually about House Bill 1. I went there showing up, and Mayor White put me on the spot. I said, can you talk about House Bill? I said, yes, sir, I can. As a politician, I learned you got to always be prepared to speak on demand, because the microphone 9 out of 10 seconds get put in your face when you go there, but I don't mind it. This is me, and that is none other than Ted Hennepin. He is the guy that has been doing the amazing work with Jackson Water on our water system. And so definitely it was a pleasure seeing him, catching up with him. This is me and Mia Edwards. We were at the news station talking about Dancing for the Stars. So y'all know I did a dance competition earlier in the session. That's me and So Gucci. She is a real estate broker opening up here in Byram. That's me and the best alderwoman in the state, Alderwoman Johnson, and my alderwoman. She does a great job. That is me at an event we had. We had Democrat candidates running for office. I was just speaking at the event. They were in District 66. This is me and my good friend, Erica Robinson Jones. She ran for alderwoman here at large in Byram. She did an amazing job, put in the hard work. She came up short this time, but in my heart, she is a winner. She always will be a winner. And we're going to give it a go again. But I'm definitely proud of the race that she ran. Y'all, this is my buddy right here, Alderwoman Rochelle Gibson. And this is my other buddy, Alderwoman Teresa Mack. They're on the Byram Board of Aldermen. They do great work. This is me and my dance instructor, Miss Bridget. Y'all, she whooped me into shape, as you can see right here. Y'all, she used to hit me, or she abused me when we were dancing, but she got me together. It was something out of my comfort zone, but it was something I enjoyed doing. That's me and Marcus Wallace. He ran for mayor of the city of Jackson. He does a lot in our community, so we appreciate you, Marcus. Man, stay in there, continue doing the work in our community because it's much needed. This is me and some of the firemen from our Byron Fire Department. This is Chief Horton right here. This is my really good friend, Mr. Ricky Thompson. He works for code enforcement. And one thing he always tells me is, I don't care what you do up there, but don't mess with our wildlife bills. And so whenever I see wildlife come through, I know I hear him in my head. So I have to call him and say, Mr. Thompson, what I need to do. And these are some of our firefighters here. They were actually out. We had a power outage. They were out checking on some of our constituents. That's me and Miss Brittany Bowman at Dancing for the Stars. That's me and Akiba Smith. She is the balloon lady. Everybody knows she does balloons everywhere. This is me. I went to Grace and Mercy Church in Terry, Mississippi for their church dedication. Really enjoyed it. I told them I'm coming back. I'll be back down there soon. This me and none other than George Harris, really good friend, my brother from another mother. This is me, and this is Mr. William Alexander. He is an instructor at Holmes Community College, but he was one of my high school VOTEC teachers back in 2000 and something. And so, yeah, like I said, these just pictures in the community. That's Mara White holding a baby we had a baby day shower for several ladies in the community, and we just got the community come together and donate things, formula, diapers, car seats, bassinets, just to kind of help them, as far as becoming a new mother, helping them offset the cost of some of the things. And so that's where that was. This Association of South Jackson Neighborhoods Parade. I was out there passing out candy. This is Eddie Soul Food. It's not in my district, but this is one of my really good friends, Tut. She does a lot of great things in the community, so I wanted to go out and support her. This is her father's restaurant. He passed away, and she remodeled it and reopened it in his honor. She's doing amazing things. Association South Jackson Neighborhoods. That's Miss Rosalind, our Willowwood Neighborhood HOA president, Miss Rosalind Sylvester. Y'all, this one of our amazing cooks. I went to her restaurant. This is me and Representative Zakia Summers. This is none other than Lisa Davis. She worked at the Capitol for several years. Now she's a lobbyist, and she also is a real estate broker. And y'all, this is Miss Linda right here. Miss Linda is our executive director for the Byram Chamber of Commerce. And I actually gave her an award for the remarkable job that she's been doing. She has grown our chamber by 35 businesses in the past year. So she's doing great things. That's me and Representative Grace Butler Washington and Representative Tamika James Jones. That's an evening we spent with the amazing ladies of Alpha Kappa Alpha at their legislative update. It was an amazing event, and we definitely thank them for allowing us to come by and kind of tell them what was going on. That's me and Alderwoman Gibson. I was able to get her to come on my radio show when she was running for office, so we were just having a good time. That's me, Senator Plump, Representative Foster, Donna Eccles, our lobbyist for the Jackson Airport, Representative Bo Brown. That's our CEO of our airport and her staff. And they were just showing us some of the new developments at the Jackson Airport. That was when they were bringing the Dunkin' Donuts and the brewery place. I don't want to say the name of it, but a brewery little stand that came through. That's me and Miss Linda. That's George Harris. This is our former executive director, Mary Ruth Kent of the Byram Chamber. She's over at Jackson Federal Credit Union now. That's me and Chief Horton out in the rain, out at Food Truck Friday, getting some good food. Then one of my amazing constituents from Terry, Mississippi, she saw we were having Food Truck Friday, and she came because she wanted to. One of her vendors that she really liked was there, and she wanted to come and indulge. So she came and supported. And this is my nephew. That's my nephew. He actually, that was his graduation from. That's when he graduated from high school, Germantown High School. So definitely proud of him. I did Power Hour with the Central Mississippi Association of Realtors. Definitely enjoy hanging out with them. Y'all, that's me and Alderwoman Gibson again. So like I said, this is just my year in review again. That's Mr. James Hobson, he did, and Miss Brittany Bowman again. We were out there doing the community. We were out there actually cleaning up Chapel Ridge apartments at that time. But that's just, the year in review. So I just wanted to kind of show people kind of what we had going on. And y'all, thank y'all for tuning in. As always, if you have any questions for those that are going to be watching this on the playback, if you have any questions, reach out. If you want a copy of this actual book, please reach out to me. I'll do whatever I can to make sure you get a copy, whether it be digital or hard copy. But definitely want to make sure that people are informed as to what's going on in the great state of Mississippi. So y'all, thank y'all so much. We had a very good year, 2025, and we're only going to keep on moving, and it's only going to get better. So y'all take care. Don't forget, tune in tomorrow, 6 o'clock p.m. to the Reliable Representation Talk Show on 90.1 WMPR, and also streaming here right on Facebook. Y'all have a good night. Thank y'all so much for your support.